Hello there and welcome back to another review. So getting back into that whole Shaw Brothers thing now, we're going to be looking at Clan of the White Lotus that was made in, I believe, 1980. Now this is a film that was actually directed by Lieh, with action choreography by Lung-wei. So the movie is actually connected to two films that come before it, one being The Executioners from Shaolin and the other being Abbot of Shaolin. Executioners was a big hit and introduced the character of Pai Mei, which literally translates to white brows in English. So Shaw Brothers knew they had a good character here with Pai Mei. They knew this was something they could probably get a bit more mileage out of. And it's weird having Lieh here. Not weird, but it's a bit new having Lieh in the director's chair rather than it's usually Lung who's in the director's chair if Lieh's sort of in the film. But this is a Lieh directed feature here. So to say, they knew they had a good character, and although he did die in Executioners, Lieh playing here the White Lotus is Pai Mei, all but name only, really. He's playing White Lotus. I mean, he is Pai Mei. They do somewhat try and connect it to Executioners from Shaolin, with White Lotus saying Pai Mei was like his classmate, but none of that really matters here. You could argue in terms that this is sort of a remake, and not really a follow-on or a sequel. I mean, he's got a different character name, but it is still basically the same character is what I'm getting at here. Although Loh wasn't an obvious choice for the director's chair, if he was the guy playing Pai Mei, then Loh would have been like, okay, well, I'll do the role again as long as you basically let me direct. So I think pretty much that was what was going through Lieh's mind. It's like, well, I'll do him again. Yeah, sure, no problem. But I want to actually direct it. Like I mentioned, Lung came along for the ride too to choreograph all the action scenes, so that you're in sort of good enough hands already. And this film, Clan of the White Lotus, does have its fans out there. A lot of people do love this movie, and there is a lot to be enjoyed here with this one. You have to remember this was a film made after films like Snake and the Eagle's Shadow, Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung. Jackie and Sammo were pretty much dominating the box office at this point. So the Kung Fu film, as we knew it or as it was sort of rapidly changing. Let's say this was 1980, so things were sort of slowly but surely moving away. I mean, Kung Fu movies were still being made, of course they were, but times were changing, rapidly changing and evolving. Whilst Wu Ping, Sammo, etc. all made the camera more up close, tighter with rapid editing, the Shaw Brothers style was pretty much in the hands of Lung, allowing more of the fighter's body to be shown. That was what was very different from Lung. He with Jackie and Sammo, you had the quick fire, sort of sometimes up close shots, some different editing the way they'd done it. Like I say, I think with Lung allowed more of the body to be shown. I think roughly it's around 3 to 4 moves per shot or something along them lines was sort of the basic of what the rules were when they were shooting a fight scene, which has always been seen in a way what made Lung and just that whole Shaw Brothers style work so well. I think what makes people love this film, or at least remember, is that of course Pai Mei is a eunuch, so any blows to the groin won't affect him. All that Gordon Liu is his training basically consists of acting, behaving like a woman, doing needlepoint, caring for a baby as well. And I think that's what a lot of people you remember from this movie, using acupuncture to defeat White Lotus. And you're never sure or far from the next fight scene, which is, that aids the film. And that works in its favour as well. Of course, we all know the character of Pai Mei was played by Gordon Liu himself in Kill Bill Volume 2, and Lieh returned to don the white brows as Pai Mei for Abbot of Shaolin, which I believe was made. I think that was made the same year as this film, 1980, I believe. But it's sort of, like I say, sort of a semi sort of follow-on remake, sequel, if you will, to sort of Executioners, but I say we're getting to Clan of the White Lotus. So the film opened and it's in fifth gear right away. As soon as the film opens, we're off, okay, straight away. You see this burning settlement, which can only assume was the Shaolin Temple, I guess. And we have Gordon Liu and his brother getting into a fight with White Brows, and they sort of defeat him. And we have Lung-wei here again, Johnny Wang, who's usually in every single Shaw Brothers movie. I think he's probably in 99% of the Shaw Brothers movies, or at least the ones that I've reviewed anyway, a lot on this channel. Lung-wei crops up so much. He is in so much, and he just always, no matter what I review from Shaw Brothers, he is there. He is in it. And he's like a commander, and he goes to White Lotus Temple, and them two are sort of working together. Find out the Emperor's released some disciples of Shaolin, and they don't like this, and of course want to avenge White Brows, who was killed at the start of the movie. Gordon Liu in this movie plays Man Ting Hung. Carol Hui is in here, as dependable as ever. For some reason, the brother who helped Ting Hung defeat White Brows was in prison and crippled whilst in there, but Gordon Liu wasn't for some reason. Like, his brother gets taken, but for whatever reason he doesn't. I don't know why he got let off the hook, but we'll never know. Not sure how he managed to evade capture, and his brother in arms didn't. So after being released, some thugs lay in wait for the prisoners. A bit unfair as the thugs sort of all have swords. It's a bit one-sided because these thugs are sort of all armed. They've all got weapons, and so they're carrying blades and everything. So it was a tiny bit unfair. So they're sort of laying in wait. So whilst enjoying a meal at the residence, Bu, Manting, and family get attacked and ambushed by White Lotus thugs. All with burning torches, no less. We have Cara Hui and Su Qing really showing that, women can really kick. I mean, Cara Hui, especially when she's under the guidance of Liu Lung in the choreography, he really does let her show off her moves. And here in Clan of the White Lotus, even though a brief scene, we do get to see Su Qing really showing that women can kick just as much as arse as men in this movie. As you expect, the fights are fast, fluid, and expertly choreographed, with Liu Lung there helping with the scenes and being in charge of the fight scenes. You would expect no less, really, in Clan of the White Lotus. All expertly choreographed, all from the Imperial. These guys are from the Imperial Court who sent them to assassinate them, basically. Then some friends of theirs randomly turns up to help. So then White Lotus Lieh turns up and he's like, "You killed my junior," learning it was Ko Chen Chang. Johnny Wang's character was incited. It was him who sort of incited him. Of course, no match for this Kung Fu eunuch. I love when he ensures 5 or so of their allies and starts counting. He injures them. And he starts counting sort of as they walk away, and they sort of drop down dead. So of course Man Ting's brother dies. He escapes with Cara Hui. Su Qing, the other female partner, stays behind to defend them, but of course she gets killed too. So White Lotus and Wang Lung-wei are having a meal, and he's worried the survivors might still be a threat. And White Lotus is like, "Look, don't worry about it. It's no problem. We'll deal with it." So Cara Hui, Man Ting, Gordon Liu's character, go to find one of her relatives. White Lotus thugs attack the building, those rebuilding the Shaolin, because the abbot and other followers are trying to rebuild the Shaolin temple, and some thugs go along thinking they're going to aid and help. And it's like, "Do you need any tools?" And I think he says, "We got our own tools." They go to Brother Xing's to stay, where he gives Man Ting a job, and they inform him about what has happened. So Man Ting's goal initially is to learn Tiger and Crane double form. That's what Gordon Liu is aiming to do, just to learn Tiger and Crane. He basically, the whole film, just uses Brother Xing as his plaything and punch bag. If you watch this movie, Brother Xing doesn't get a very good hand in this movie, because Gordon Liu is basically just using him for his training, and not in a nice way either. It's like, this guy really doesn't want to be training with him at all, and he's like, this guy really does not get a good deal. He gave him a job, and then he's just getting beaten up and everything, and a place to stay. So after a brief amount of training, he goes straight to the White Lotus Temple, right? He has not been training that long, and he goes straight to the White Lotus Temple. He's like, "Right, I must be good enough now, right, off I go." And this is what the film it is. He takes on White Lotus, loses, goes to train, takes on White Lotus, loses, goes to train, and that's sort of what happens in this film. And once they sort of get staying with Brother Xing and everything, that's all it sort of becomes. Like, Gordon Liu thinks he's good enough, he goes to beat him, he's not good enough. Then he goes to more training, goes to take him on, he's still not good enough. And that's basically what the film falls into. That's basically where the plot, that's what happens. So it takes him several attempts. It's not just, right, I've been training, I can win now. He has several attempts here at trying to beat this guy and to take him on. He takes on 2 swordsmen on a rival in Wang Lung-wei, and whenever I see these two fight, all I ever get reminded of, whenever I see Gordon Liu and Wang Lung-wei fight, all I get reminded of, and all I ever think about, is the amazing fight scene at the end of Martial Club, because I always remember that fight. Martial Club, while not probably the best of Liu Lung's frame of work, he's got a magnificent end fight in it, and here, when I see Gordon Liu and Wang Lung-wei fight, that's all I think of. It just always reminds me of martial club. So he takes on loads of monks too in a great one versus all fight scene. Yes, loads that are in the background doing nothing or sort of jumping around in the background, as is usually the case with a kung fu movie. The background people sometimes don't know what to do, but I mean, who cares, right? I mean, that's a trait of a kung fu movie when the characters and some of the henchmen and villains, whatever, are just standing around in the background watching. We have Xiao Ho here, sporting another jazzy haircut. To rival even his amazing hair that he had in Legendary Weapons of China, which I always remember very distinctly, his hair in that, but he's got another jazzy hairstyle in this one. So realising he is no match for White Lotus, Man-Ting he makes a run for it basically. He bails, he's out of there, I'm no good, right. Kara Hui is also pregnant and gives birth at this point, and in this movie it says that Man-Ting has to learn, like I mentioned earlier, women kung fu. And that's, like I say, along with like a Lolay's like synonymous villain with the movie. I think that's what a lot of people remember. That like, is that the one where Gordon Liu does like women's kung fu? Is that this one? As he can't hit a paper, he tries to hit a paper doll and he needs to focus his strength and power. Like I mentioned earlier, he has to start learning things like embroidery and looking after the kid. And I love it when Brother like Ting basically says he has become a woman. You can teach him now, because he just becomes so feminine in what he's trying to do. The whole idea, he needs to release his strength after impact and using softer punches. So basically the whole idea is to hit softer but release it slightly after the impact. I think that's what the gimmick here was. So Xing's boss is like, we're behind on orders, Man-Ting keeps just using and destroying our paper dolls. So after some training, he goes back to the White Lotus Temple to take him on again, where he takes on Xiao Ho and another swordsman. And I love when White Lotus says to him, "Have you changed genders?" Like, which does make me laugh. And he calls his new style embroidery fist, of all things. That's his new style. So after all this, he still can't beat him, right? He still cannot beat this guy. And he runs away again. So like I say, he's had an attempt, he fails, he goes to train, he has an attempt, he fails, and I'd say he bails again. He lets him escape as he doesn't want to kill him. He says at one point, if he does kill him, it would just ruin the purity of the place. So that's his reason for not killing Gordon Liu's character when he beats him. He's like, if I kill him, it's just going to ruin the purity of the place. So just let him run away. So that is twice now he's gone to take on, like, say, White Lotus and failed. So Man-Ting is all injured, and Brother Xing's boss comes over to see him, who just hosts, like, his boss just so happens to be a doctor as well. I mean, what are the chances of that? But his boss is a doctor. And it turns out, like, he injured the 100 steps soul, like, he injured I think it's called the 100 steps soul pursuing fish, which is like the best name for, one of the best names for a technique I've ever heard. 100 steps soul pursuing fist. I mean, just rolls right off the tongue, doesn't it? It's that's one technique you'll always remember. And I think it turns out it's based on the steps he takes. Like, if you remember earlier, what Lolay's character does a thing where he sort of counts as the people walk away, and I think that was what the injury like he had here. Like, I think it's mentioned if he took another 19 steps, then he would have died. And so the doctor just starts sticking loads of needles into Man-Ting. Basically, he just starts just going crazy with the needles. So after being healed, the boss doctor gives him the acupuncture book, which he studies to aid him. He ambushes Ko Chun-chung and kills him, and asks him at one point where White Lotus is. Well, Man-Ting, he's probably in that great big temple where you have found him several times before. Like, he asked this guy, he goes, where's White Lotus? He's in the temple, Man-Ting. That's where you've always found him the past 2 times you've gone to take him on. So he's probably still in the temple. You know, he's probably just go to that place you've been to before, and you'll probably find the guy you're looking for. So he sneaks in White Lotus, who is having like a soak in the bath, and we get Loeh here launching himself out naked in like a Superman style out of the water, and at the start he's sort of fighting semi-naked, trying to get a towel on and get dressed as well. Then Man-Ting has to take on 2 swordsmen again, and I love how White Lotus just replaces them every time. Like, when Gordon Liu's taken on his swordsmen before and beaten them, it's like, well, 2 other people have taken the position of the twin swordsman that he's got waiting in his temple. Gordon Liu does some nice moves with the chain whip here, which he uses against White Lotus and comes out of nowhere, but it just adds to the end fight scene. As you expect, the fights in this movie, they're top notch. Like I mentioned with Lo Ka Lung there, the fight scenes are really good. Nothing amazingly brilliant, but the fight scenes are what you would expect. Like I say, they're fast, they're fluid, and as I say, some great, nice, tight choreography here. All work well. And like I mentioned, you're never far from the next one in this movie. The training, it's very much a training movie. There is fights in it quite often, but Gordon Liu doesn't fight many people because the fights in this movie are usually just in the temple each time. It's actually a film I enjoyed. I will say, actually, this is a film I enjoyed a lot more the second time I watched it. I've seen it so many times since, but I remember watching it the first time and I wasn't too impressed by it. But when I watched it the second time, I found a lot more to enjoy here. Once I knew what the film was, went back to it like sort of a month later, watched it again, and absolutely loved it. It's not necessarily a classic, I'm sure a lot of people do think it is a classic, but there is still a lot. There's a lot to be enjoyed with this movie. I say I enjoyed it a lot more the second time round I watched it. No, I didn't love it, but now I do love it. The whole end fight is using like loads of needles on White Lotus in the hope that he can find his pressure point, and at one point putting like about 100 needles in him and still missing the point. He eventually finds it, and the film ends with him saying, "Yay, I found it." Right, basically it ends with him saying, "Yay, I found the pressure point. I've got it," and that's where the film sort of ends. But it's a great kung fu movie, and it's easy to see why a lot of people like this movie. It's simple, it's quick, it's gimmicky. It's the one you take, like I say, with Pai Mei in it. It's the one you remember with Gordon Liu practicing sort of ladies kung fu, and it's just all them things. And it's just a very sort of fun-filled kung fu movie. But if you have seen Clan of the White Lotus, let me know if you enjoyed it. As I say, Lieh directing this one, Gordon Liu, Kara Hui, Luo Ka-leung doing the fight choreography. You see Sao Ho here as one of the guys. So there's a lot going on in this movie. But as I say, if you have seen it, let me know what you think of it, and I'll see you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the review. Take care.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.